Welcome back to the Short Story Project. I'm Leslie. Today is May 11th. I'm recording this at 9:39 in the morning, and this is part 5. So, as expected, I did not do any work on the short story over the weekend during my retreat. Had a wonderful retreat, by the way. But I am kind of tired, and I'm ready to focus back in, though. I'm back at the desk. I've been here, I've been planning my week, planning my day, and then organizing my brain to get back into this and sort of rereading a few things. I did do a little bit of work on the character development for my hero. So when we last left off, I had a character development workbook for my heroine, Nolani, and I made a brief one for Eril, my main male character. So I know that he is an Aquatican priest. I have a couple of ideas about what he looks like. His personality, I really want to be in contrast to Nolani's. So he's cerebral, quiet, thoughtful, slow to anger. He's kind. What he wants, his goal is to protect his people's culture from these thieves and interlopers. And he is not changing. So he is a flat arc. There's positive change arcs for characters, negative change arcs, and flat arcs. And so he's a flat character, which means he doesn't change, but he changes the world around him. And he changes another character, Nolani. So I've kind of skipped all of these things that have to do with the change. The only thing I put in is that he brings change to Nolani, my other character. That is what I know about him for this very short story. And I think that is enough for now. My current question is, what do I need to start writing? I think I mentioned before, I need some image, the beginning of the first scene, the first line, something to grab onto that will lead me in. So what I'm thinking is, my very, very loose outline is that we're in the midst of this heist. We're going to get a little bit of the backstory about who these people are, who Eril is to Nolani, her motivations, and then a big point of conflict that happens right now. And keep it from being info dumpy, keep it engaging, action oriented, but still like thoughtful. And because really it's about showing this moment of change. If I go back to my vision statement, which is something that I like to do. So yeah, vision statement. It's my North Star. I often go back to it before I start a new writing session, at the beginning of each writing session. A story that feels like myth about the moment of change, where she changes her mind and decides to let the score go out of respect for this man she may be falling for. So in a very short period of time, I have to get across their relationship, the burgeoning feelings that she might have, the doubts that he's been putting into play, and all of that. And it is max 4,000 words, ideally less. So I probably will start writing. I'm a plotter. I do believe very much in plotting, but I also have enough in my head that I don't think a formal plot works for me right now. And also, once I do my first draft, it'll show me the shape of the story, and I can go back and apply some of the plotting techniques. What I do want to do is get my index cards back out here, because I do have scene index cards. So like the anatomy of a scene is important, making sure that I'm creating scenes that have all of their elements and that work. And sort of maybe instead of planning a plot for a story, I can plan my first scene. That's a really important tip to, like, before you start writing, know what you're going to write. Very helpful. All right, so I'm missing a card, but that's okay. All right, one of them has gotten lost. So I'm a big fan of the writing book, The Story Grid, and then I've sort of modified the story grid for my own card that has the elements of a scene. So for me, the scene includes desire, the inciting incident, the progressive complications, the turning point, the crisis, the climax, and the resolution. So desire, what does the character want going into the scene? The inciting incident, which is a choice, a cause, or a coincidence that creates that moment of change in the scene. Progressive complications, they can't always get what they want immediately. The turning point, new information, an action or a revelation. So the turning point is the moment when new information comes to the fore and a character can't help but reflect. It is something unexpected that happens. The crisis is a question that arises after the scene turns, the point where the character must do something, make their best bad choice, or reconcile irreconcilable goods. This is story grid language from the book The Story Grid by Sean Coyne. The climax is an active answer to the question of the crisis, and the resolution tells the reader what the climax means, how the worldview has shifted. So at minimum, I'm going to, in my notes app, on my notes file, I'm going to see what this first scene might be. So, setting incident, complications, turning point, crisis, climax, and resolution. I like starting here at these places for every scene. And I might just think about this right now and not fill it in because I think it is just time to start writing. But having at least considered all of these things. So the desire, she wants to steal, needs this artifact. I feel like I do need to give the artifact a name. I'm going to see what my subconscious mind comes up with when I start drafting. Inciting incident, they're getting closer. So they've been on this journey under the water, they're getting closer. Progressive complications, Eril is layering in complications. He has been seeding doubt for the past couple of days and making her doubt herself, basically. She's rethinking her goals and her plans. The turning point, new information or a revelation, something unexpected has to happen in the scene that causes a question that gets answered, and then we have the resolution. Now it's time for me to open up a Scrivener file and start writing. Scary. Am I actually ready? I think so. I guess we're gonna find out. Okay, so my first step is just to sit for a moment quietly and see if I can get a first sentence to bring me in. It might not be the first sentence after all of the revisions, but I need something to pull me into this mode, into the story, something to set the scene. Some people might need music. Sometimes I do a brief meditation before I start writing. Sometimes just sit and think quietly. It does happen to be raining right now, so it's getting me into a wet ocean mood. And yeah, so I'm just going to sit and think for a few minutes, until I hear something that feels like it will draw me into the story. I'm trying to hook myself into the energy and the mood of this particular story. So it might require some doodling, sketching, maybe some handwritten notes. I have to really ground myself. There's probably lots of techniques, and I'm trying to just think of what I usually do. Sometimes a first line will come to me and I will write it down in the shower or as I'm falling asleep. And so I'm envisioning these characters, these two, and then there's another heist crew. And part of me needs their names too, but sometimes I just let the names come to me when I'm writing. Maybe at least 3 or 4 other people. They are in some kind of boat or maybe a submarine. I'm feeling like they're going to the bottom of the ocean. And they're in some kind of magical submarine. And maybe Eril is the captain, the pilot, and their guide that's been hired / blackmailed to do this. So yeah, that is my next step. And I'll be back when I have something. Okay, yeah, I am back. I took a few moments to quiet my mind. I came up with the first line. Let me read it to you. And I actually did some dictating. So, Nolani had always been afraid of the dark. That was the line that came to me. That was the line that sparked it. I dictated 1,026 words in about 20, 25 minutes. And it's a mess. Like, I don't know if there's any conflict in the scene. It's a lot of info dump, but it is a fast first draft. And I believe in fast first drafts, dirty rough drafts, shitty first drafts, whatever you want to call it, that I can then edit. But that's for future Leslie. This week is not about editing. It's not about even really judging. It's just about figuring out what the story is, telling myself the story. So, 1,000 words is obviously a quarter of my word count, and it's going to change a lot because not a lot has happened, but because this is the first time I'm really writing words in this, feeling the energy of the story and this main character. The tense, it came out in third person. And the very end, I randomly switched to first. And I think, I don't know, I'm not really making those decisions right now. I think third person just feels like, that's how it came out. And then I'm like, should this be first? And we'll see how my second dictating session comes out, because sometimes I will change it in the middle. I usually do have a reason for first versus third. I'm not sure if this is dual POV. I'm thinking it's only single POV from Nolani's perspective. And I just names whatever came to mind, the top of, I was just saying words. And so if a name came to my mind, and that's the character's name, and it might change, it might not. And that's how it works for me. So yeah, I feel happy that I got 1,000 words, knowing that there's a lot of editing to be done. And we'll just do one more dictating session today before I have to move on to other things, and finish it up tomorrow, most likely. And so if I can start editing on Wednesday, all the better, because there will be a lot of editing to do. Okay, so I'm going to go back to dictating, and I will update you. If you would like to read the first draft, I will make that available to my imaginary best friends, which are the paid subscribers to the Substack. So if you're interested in seeing what the raw, dirty first draft looks like, I'm not sure if I recommend that, but it can be helpful to see the evolution over time. So that'll be available for best friends once. I might just do my daily session and get that out to you. We'll see how I feel. But yeah, so I'm going to get back to dictating, and I will keep you apprised of my progress. Okay, so I have dictated 2,224 words, half of the first draft of this story. It is very rough, of course, but it is starting to go somewhere. I'm starting to learn who these characters are, understand the relationship, understand the world, the mission a little bit better, and it's doing what it needs to do. It's giving what it needs to give. I will give you a caveat. I will make the first draft available. It is obviously not meant to be read by other humans, but you can see the rough is rough. There's there's a little bit of punctuation from the dictation app that I'm using, but not much. The character names are all spelled wrong because I am speaking it. It's probably very difficult to follow because of the lack of actual punctuation. I might go in just so I don't forget what was dialogue and what wasn't, but I might not, because a lot of that's going to change. And like anything I do to this is actually time wasted. So we're going to dead that idea. Yeah. So the goal tomorrow is to finish the first draft. Even though with novel writing, my first drafts are usually half the length of the final story. This will probably be longer, and I'll have to cut. And because it's just a lot of throat clearing, it's a lot of me figuring out what's happening. This is the actual plotting, the first draft, knowing what the story is, and then I can tighten it. I might change it wildly. I don't know. It's getting there. It's in the vein of being close to what I want it to be, but it's far. But first drafts are supposed to be far. I will not read it over. Tomorrow, when I come back to it, I might read over the last few paragraphs. But I like to just keep pushing forward in my first drafts and making changes that need to be made. I'll make notes if I know I said something that I'm changing today. Like I've vastly changed a name or a whole concept, or maybe they're not even on a submarine anymore tomorrow. Who knows what's going to happen? And it goes in this draft, it's going back and forth between being an actual ship and a submarine. It has to be a submarine because they're going below the water, but I don't know what the names are. I'm calling things just very generic names. It's very much placeholders for everything. And I will make it better in the next draft. So I've had a very productive day of work and I'm tired. Like even drafting, I it's 10:54 in the morning and I am tired. But this creative work uses a lot of your brain. It uses a lot of energy. It pulls a lot from you. That's why I prefer to do it first as early as possible. I think, yeah, moving on to other things today. And thanks for joining me. And I will see you in the next part.